This was the Mary Celeste, one of the most infamous vessels in history, and had been salvaged by these three men from the sailing ship De Gratia after the Mary Celeste was found adrift in the mid-Atlantic Ocean.
Some mysteries are never meant to be solved. The Mary Celeste was one of them. The infamous ghost ship became a legend the day it was found sailing with no one aboard. Its crew had simply disappeared from the face of the earth.
The sails were damaged. Those that were up and had not been furled were damaged. Aside from that, there was no real structural damage to the boat.
But the thing nobody tells you is that the ship's final resting place has just been discovered. A deep-sea exploration team sent cameras to investigate the wreck, and the footage they captured is beyond belief. What they saw inside the ship didn't solve the mystery, it made it 100 times more terrifying. The sunken time capsule. For over a century, the story of the Mary Celeste was nothing more than a ghost story told by sailors, a chilling mystery sealed by the crushing pressure of the deep ocean. The ship, discovered in 1872 sailing erratically with its sails flapping, was in perfect condition. Its cargo of industrial alcohol was untouched, and there was a 6-month supply of food and water. But the crew, including Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, were gone. Vanished into thin air. Many people are crazy about this story, and for good reason. But what if the ship itself was just waiting to be found? You see, a private research vessel, the Neptune's Eye, wasn't looking for historical wrecks. It was mapping a deep-sea volcanic ridge off the Azores, thousands of feet down. Suddenly, their advanced sonar picked up an anomaly. It was man-made, about 100 feet long, and made of wood. An old wooden ship shouldn't be here, and it definitely shouldn't be sitting perfectly upright on the ocean floor. To put it mildly, the crew was intrigued. They deployed a state-of-the-art remotely operated vehicle, or ROV, named Triton. As Triton descended through the crushing blackness, its powerful LED lights illuminated a scene that seemed frozen in time. A 2-masted brigantine sat on the seabed, covered in a thin layer of silt but otherwise impossibly intact. As the camera panned across the stern, the crew in the control room held their breath. Faded but unmistakable letters spelled out a name that has been whispered in maritime lore for generations. Mary Celeste. The most shocking fact wasn't just that they found it, it was the condition of the vessel. Wooden ships are usually devoured by the ocean, their timbers collapsing into a pile of debris, but the intense cold and low oxygen levels at this depth had preserved it like a museum piece. The team decided to do something risky, send the Triton inside. The ROV slipped through an open cargo hatch into the ship's dark interior. What they saw next is what left them speechless. The footage was chillingly clear. In the crew's quarters, clothes were neatly folded in chests. In the galley, pots and pans were stowed away. It was eerie, but the real shock came when the ROV entered the captain's cabin. A small child's rocking horse was positioned in the middle of the room as if waiting for a rider. On the main desk, a logbook lay open. The team skillfully maneuvered the ROV's robotic arm to get a high-definition shot of the page. The final entries detailed the weather and the ship's position, all perfectly normal. But the very last entry, dated 10 days before the ship was found abandoned, contained just 3 words written in a hurried scrawl. 3 words that have no place in any captain's log. The footage is still classified, but sources say those words have sent historians into a frenzy because they point to a conclusion far stranger than pirates or a freak wave. What they found rewrites the entire legend of the Mary Celeste. A voyage into nothingness. To understand why the new footage is so groundbreaking, you have to go back to the original mystery. The thing nobody tells you is just how normal everything seemed before it all went wrong. On November 7, 1872, the Mary Celeste sailed from New York, bound for Genoa, Italy. On board was a respected captain, Benjamin Briggs, his family, and a crew of 7 highly regarded seamen. They were carrying over 1,700 barrels of crude alcohol, a valuable but dangerous cargo. It was a routine voyage. Almost a month later, on December 5th, the British brigantine De Gratia spotted the Mary Celeste drifting about 400 miles off the Azores Islands. The ship was sailing strangely, and when they received no response to their signals, the captain of the De Gratia sent a boarding party. What they found has fueled nightmares ever since. There was not a single soul on board. The ship's only lifeboat was missing, which suggested an orderly evacuation. But why? What many overlooked is the sheer lack of evidence for any of the popular theories. The ship was wet and had taken on some water, but was completely seaworthy. There were no signs of a struggle or foul play that would suggest pirates. In fact, the crew's personal belongings, including valuables, were still in their quarters. This makes the pirate theory fall flat. Some have suggested a mutiny, but Captain Briggs was known as a fair man and the crew was handpicked and experienced. There was no reason for them to turn on him. And you can see this everywhere in the reports. Everything was just off. The ship's papers were missing except for the captain's logbook. The last entry was from 10 days prior, placing the ship over 100 miles from where it was found. In the captain's cabin, his wife's sewing machine had a piece of fabric still in it, and there was a child's impression on a bed, as if little Sophia had just been playing. The cargo was also a key point. 9 of the barrels were empty. Since they were made of red oak, they were more porous and prone to leaking. This led to one of the most popular scientific theories: fumes from the leaking alcohol. The idea is that Captain Briggs, fearing an explosion, ordered everyone into the lifeboat to wait for the ship to air out. But a sudden storm or a snapped tow line could have separated them from the Mary Celeste, leaving them to their fate in the vast ocean. It's a plausible theory, but it doesn't explain everything. It doesn't explain why they would abandon a perfectly sound ship so hastily. It doesn't explain the missing ship's papers. And now, with the discovery of the wreck, this theory and all the others have been blown completely out of the water. The new footage proves the abandonment wasn't as orderly as everyone thought. The footage that breaks the rules. The deep-sea footage from the Triton ROV didn't just find a ship, it found evidence that turns the entire Mary Celeste mystery on its head. The research team, along with a select group of maritime historians, have been analyzing every second of the recording, and what they found is, to put it mildly, disturbing. Let's start with the lifeboat. For years, everyone assumed the crew left in an orderly fashion on the ship's only lifeboat. But the footage shows the davits, the cranes used to lower the boat, were not damaged in a way consistent with a panicked launch. Instead, they look like they were intentionally broken. But it gets weirder. The most shocking fact comes from that captain's log. Those 3 mysterious words scrawled at the end have become the new core of the mystery. While the words themselves remain a closely guarded secret, insiders have hinted they aren't a warning or a location. They describe an observation, something the captain saw that was so unbelievable he could only jot down 3 words before whatever happened next. This has given rise to a new, unsettling theory that connects several of the strange facts. Many people are crazy about theories involving sea monsters or aliens, but this is grounded in science. Some experts are now looking at the possibility of a rare natural phenomenon, like a massive infrasound event caused by a submarine earthquake. Infrasound is sound below the level of human hearing, and at high intensity, it's been known to cause feelings of intense fear, anxiety, and disorientation. It could have driven the crew mad, causing them to abandon ship in a state of terror. This might explain the broken davits and the hasty final log entry. Another theory revolves around the cargo itself. What if the alcohol, combined with some other substance on board, created a bizarre chemical reaction? Maybe it produced a hallucinogenic vapor that filled the ship, causing shared delusions among the crew. This could explain them all leaving together and perhaps seeing something that wasn't there. The very thing Captain Briggs might have tried to describe in his log. The new footage shows no evidence of an explosion, but chemical contamination? That leaves no trace. The old theories are dead, and the new ones are far more terrifying. What the divers really saw. So what is the truth? After all this, the incredible discovery, the high-definition footage, the new theories, where does that leave the enduring mystery of the Mary Celeste? For over a century and a half, this question has haunted maritime history, a ghost story whispered by sailors and scholars alike. People watching this, people who have followed the legend for years, are looking for an answer, a neat and tidy conclusion to a story that has defied explanation. They hope technology could finally pull back the curtain. But the thing is, the ocean doesn't work that way. It doesn't yield its secrets easily. The final, and perhaps most chilling revelation from this discovery is that we are further from the truth than ever before. The old theories, the ones that gave us a sense of comfort and logic, have been systematically dismantled. For decades, the most popular explanation was piracy. It's a romantic, violent image, ruthless buccaneers swarming the decks, a desperate fight, and a stolen ship. Yet the high-definition cameras reveal a scene of eerie tranquility. There are no signs of a struggle, no splintered railings, no ransacked chests. The cargo of denatured alcohol, the supposed prize, sits untouched in the hold. Pirates take treasure, they leave behind chaos. The Mary Celeste, resting silently on the seafloor, shows neither. What about a force of nature? A sudden, catastrophic storm or a terrifying waterspout could certainly convince a seasoned crew to abandon ship. This theory held weight because it spoke to the awesome, unpredictable power of the sea. But the footage tells a different story. Below decks, cabins are orderly. Plates are stacked. The ship's log is placed neatly on a desk. A storm violent enough to make Captain Briggs flee with his family would have torn the ship asunder, tossing everything into a chaotic mess. Instead, we see a vessel that seems to have sailed calmly to its final resting place. The theory of an explosion from the alcohol fumes also dissolves under scrutiny. The barrelheads are sealed, the hatch is secure. There are no scorch marks, no evidence of the fire and panic that would have preceded such a desperate escape. Let's bring this all down to earth. All the footage does is confirm that none of the easy explanations work. It methodically strips away our assumptions, leaving us with a core paradox that is more baffling than any legend. The divers found the ship's chronometer and sextant were missing. These are not items you grab in a moment of sheer terror. They are the essential tools of navigation. Taking them while leaving behind valuables and personal belongings suggests a calculated decision. It implies a plan. The crew intended to navigate from the lifeboat, perhaps to a nearby island or to follow another vessel with the full intention of returning. But they never did. The footage proves they left with purpose, but it offers absolutely no reason why. The divers and researchers were left speechless, not because they saw a ghost or a monster, but because they saw a perfect scene of utter and complete abandonment with no logical cause. It's a human paradox locked in a time capsule. Are we missing a key detail? Did something happen so fast and so silently that it left no trace on the ship itself? What many overlooked in the past, in the rush to find a culprit in pirates or storms, was the human element. The fear. The footage drifts through the silent corridors, showing us 10 bunks, 10 sets of personal items, 10 lives that just stopped. A sewing kit lies open, a needle resting in the fabric. A pipe sits next to an open book. These are not signs of a frantic evacuation. They are signs of a life interrupted in its most mundane, peaceful moments. The rocking horse in the captain's cabin is the most haunting image of all. It's a silent testament to 2-year-old Sophia Briggs, a ghost of laughter and innocence in the crushing dark. What terror could possibly compel a loving father and a seasoned captain to take his wife and child from the relative safety of a 282-ton brigantine and place them into a tiny, vulnerable lifeboat in the middle of the vast Atlantic? The truth is, we may never know what happened in the minds of those 10 souls. This new discovery hasn't solved the mystery. It has preserved it, sealing it in the cold, dark silence of the abyss for us to wonder about forever. It confirms that some puzzles aren't meant to be solved and that some things are simply, terrifyingly beyond our understanding. So what do you think those final 3 words in the captain's log were? Was the crew running from something real or something inside their own minds? Let us know below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more mysteries.